After 5 days of a marathon hearing and after listening to all sides, the Pakistan Supreme Court has finally taken the much-awaited decision. The 5-judge Supreme Court bench has given a unanimous verdict and has overruled the Deputy Speaker's April 3rd ruling that rejected the no-confidence motion against Imran Khan and also the President's ruling on the dissolution of the assemblies. The Chief Justice of Pakistan, Umar Ata Bandial, read out a unanimous verdict taken by the 5-judge bench. The Chief Justice said that the Deputy Speaker ruling and the dissolution of assemblies were unconstitutional. The Chief Justice also said that the President's decision to dissolve the assemblies on advice of the Prime Minister was illegal. Setting aside all orders and rulings, the Supreme Court has set a deadline for a vote on the no-confidence motion. And the vote now will take place this Saturday, that is April 9th. Now for more on this, our Pakistan Bureau's Chief Anas Malik is now joining us live from Islamabad with the latest. Anas, thanks for joining us. Now the dismissal of the no-confidence motion against Imran Khan was unconstitutional, says the Supreme Court. What happens next? Is it essentially game over for Captain Khan?
Well, Priyanka, it's a historic decision that came in today by the Pakistani Supreme Court. And before I answer your question, I have with me Mr. Haider Zaman Qureshi, a prominent Pakistan People's Party leader and a prominent lawyer as well. Let's have a word with him first, because the Pakistan People's Party was the party that went against the rulings of the Deputy Speaker on the 3rd of April before the Supreme Court. Sir, how hopeful were you? Thank you so much for taking out time and speaking to WION. How hopeful were you with regards to these decisions that came in today?
Well, first of all, this is the historic day for Pakistan and for constitutionalism and democratic forces, and Pakistan People's Party claims, and Pakistan, we were the founders of the 1973 Constitution, Saeed Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, and our leadership, and particularly Chairman Pakistan People's Party, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, really led the combined opposition, forged consensus. We took to the streets, and when we got the parliamentary tools to work, to use the democratic parliamentary tools to dislodge this government. For the first time in the constitutional history, we had a selected Prime Minister who, when he saw his fate, his loss, he shed away from resigning, and he tried to do an ultra-constitutional act in collusion with the Speaker of the National Assembly and the President of Pakistan, which happens to be from his party. So this was the litmus test of the doctrine of necessity, which we claimed that after the independence of judiciary movement and the 2012 Supreme Court judgment, we thought that it's gone forever. But there were still some elements of those forces which thought that, it would be used, and there was a lot of anxiety amongst the constitution believers and, the democratic forces. But kudos to the judgment and the bench of the Supreme Court. They heard the arguments and they broke the firewall, which is the trichotomy of powers that, judicially cannot look into parliamentary business. But this was held to be an ultra-constitutional act by a civilian fascist regime, and this was the first civilian coup, and we are so happy and jubilant, and we are so proud of our Supreme Court that not only justice has been seen to have been done, it has been dispensed. And I think for a long and a perpetual time, the doctrine of necessity has been buried, and everyone's happy. Let the democratic forces now play their role, and the joint opposition is, inshallah, confident that the vote which has been set on Saturday, 9th of April at 9:30 a.m. by the Supreme Court, the vote of confidence, no confidence, will pass, and we will have a new leader of the House, and we will take out this country from the economic meltdown. We will give them the rights, the freedom of press. The press was under a clampdown. There was a lot of ultra-constitutional things under this fascist regime. We are happy that there will be across-the-board accountability, and all those characters, starting from the Speaker to the Law Minister and the Prime Minister, I think they will have to face the consequences. The Supreme Court has come to the rescue and upheld the Constitution of Pakistan. And I must acknowledge the effort of all political parties which are part of the joint opposition, and especially my chairman Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, who always challenged him, either resign, Mr. Selected, or face the no confidence. He did not resign, he did not face the no confidence motion, and he played foul. Today, his surprise has been buried and he has been surprised by the Supreme Court of Pakistan.
But speaking about surprises, do you still think that there could be any hiccups or surprises on the part of the Pakistani Prime Minister or the incumbent Prime Minister Khan?
No. The short order announced by the Honorable Supreme Court and the Honorable Chief Justice has given a watertight order, and it also has provisions that will make it mandatory for all organs of the state, all institutions, all functionaries to carry out the entire assembly business and ensure that the vote of no confidence is carried out in terms of the requirements of Article 95 of the Constitution, and he has laid down that the session will not be prorogued, and under Article 91 of the Constitution, the new leader of the House will be elected. And all matters at this stage have become status quo ante as if they were on April the 3rd, i.e. the government is the parliament is functioning, and now after the constitutional stability which the August Supreme Court has given us, I think the responsibility is on the shoulders of the opposition and all political parties that we give this country political stability. We give this country economic stability. We give this country the freedoms, the rights enshrined in the Constitution. And we must have a mutual respect for each other, all institutions, and we must work towards a prosperous, a strong and a progressive Pakistan. And with a vibrant foreign policy, which is centered towards Pakistan's national security interest. We want to be a responsible nation amongst South Asia. We want trade integration. We want good relations with our neighbors. We want good relations across the board with our trading partners. And we cannot afford to use our diplomatic, privileged communications for our small political gains. And I think the sad legacy Imran Khan and his PTI government will leave is that they never stood for justice, because they trampled and subverted the Constitution through their actions. They never stood for across-the-board accountability. They were only targeting their opponents, and they were never interested in a vibrant foreign policy which gives us an economic sovereignty. So that's the end note. It's a happy day. I'm out of words, and congratulations to the entire nation of Pakistan and all democratic forces of Pakistan.
Right. Thank you so much, sir, for taking our time and speaking to WION. Priyanka, you heard Mr. Haider Zaman Qureshi, all jubilant today. They're saying that it was a submersive act that was done by the Pakistani Prime Minister, and that they will be working together as a combined opposition for the betterment of the country. Priyanka?
We clearly heard that the opposition is rejoicing at this crucial vote. Stay with us on this broadcast. We'd also like to get some inputs from our guest of the hour. Now, for more details on this story, Dr. Farid Malik is now joining us live from Lahore. He is the ex-chairman of the Pakistan Science Foundation. Dr. Malik, welcome to WION World is One. My first question to you, what can be said about Imran Khan's political future at this point if he loses the no-trust vote on Saturday?
Well, Imran Khan's political future is being debated and discussed repeatedly. Imran Khan has a political future. He has tremendous following. He brings ethics and morality to our tainted political culture, which this country has. The parliament in Pakistan has been almost irrelevant since 1977. It's composed of thugs, thieves, money launderers, serious charges who are facing in the court of law. And so the point is that Imran Khan is popular. His popularity is on the upswing. There has been foreign intervention. An interesting fact that should also be noted is that in the checkered political history of Pakistan, only 2 times assemblies have been restored, and both favoring PMLN. Personally, I think that PMLN has always played foul. It's a rogue political party, and always gets away its.
But Dr. Malik, just interjecting
outlay.
there, the big question of the hour right now is that on Saturday he loses the no trust vote. What then? Where will the popularity take him then? What are the options ahead of Imran Khan at this point?
The point is his popularity is on the upswing. I mean, election is the only way forward. This is only a stopgap situation, and the only way forward are the elections. And probably my analysis is that PTI will resign en bloc, and almost half of the assembly would be gone, and then the people who have deflected and who voted against the party discipline will be disqualified. So you can't have by-elections for half of the parliament. So parliament will have to be dissolved and parliamentary elections held. So the only way forward is election. And they may have been diffused for the time being, but I think that's the only way forward. And Pakistan needs a legislature which works in the interest of the people of Pakistan, which this legislature does not.
Right, but Dr. Malik, did you see this coming? Did you see this coming? I think that's a big question on everyone's mind as of now. Did you see this big vote coming? Imran Khan earlier had made claims of a foreign conspiracy to topple his government. All these were rubbish by the West and the opposition. So what now?
I don't know why they have been rubbished. I don't understand. Pakistan has been facing foreign intervention ever since 1958, when the first dictator took control. We have been a chamcha state for almost most of time of our existence. India has never experienced this kind of intervention. Pakistan has repeatedly, every prime minister who stood up for Pakistan has to face hard times, starting with the murder of Liaquat Ali Khan, the assassination of Abdul Waqar Ali Bhutto, and now even Imran Khan his life is threatened. Because every time a Pakistani leader works in the interest of Pakistan, there is foreign intervention. Somehow,
we'll of course have to verify those claims. As we understand, the US has denied any claims of foreign interference.
The point is, there is very difficult, it's almost impossible to verify or prove these claims, but they're obvious. I mean, we have a parliament which is totally irrelevant. There are 21 clauses in our constitution about fundamental human rights. None of them has ever been discussed. There's no confidence motion.
What about the people of Pakistan? What about the economic crisis? Even if this political turmoil ends, do you see an end to the economic crisis that Pakistan is facing as of now?
The economic crisis of Pakistan is because of loot and plunder. The state exchequer has been plundered. There is no money, and then there is heavy debt that we have to pay back. It's not piled up in the last 3 years. It's a mismanagement of the last 40 years, in which both the parties, People's Party and PMLN, have been ruling. And they have had serious charges of money laundering. It's an international. Some people say they're hardened criminals, and and the point is that the establishment, for the time being, has played neutral. Establishment has all the files full of the misdeeds of all these people, and the moment the files are opened, then there's Amir awakens, and so you never know what the vote will be on Saturday. Maybe there's Amir might wake up again. And 20 of them will not show up for the vote. You never know. Pakistan is a very interesting place as far as politics goes, because the parliament is full of people who are thugs, money launderers, and unscrupulous elements whose files are full of their misdeeds. And the moment the establishment opens the files, then the Zamir gets up and they walk the other way.
Dr. Malik, I'm afraid we're running out of time. Thank you so much for all those inputs, and thanks for joining us on WION. We still have our Pakistan Bureau Chief Anas Malik with us on this broadcast. Anas, tell us a little bit about what happens next. We are, of course, going to be tracking the no trust vote that will happen on Saturday. All eyes will be on that. What are the options ahead of Imran Khan as of now?
Well, the options are very limited and very narrow at this point of time. He can either resign and go home, or face a no confidence motion and go home. It's one of the two. There aren't many options that are left for the Pakistani Prime Minister anymore, Priyanka. But before, I would just like to add to what our honourable guest said with regards to the Parliament being not so functional, and particularly in the court judgment, especially with regards to the foreign interference bit as well. The court has said that the Prime Minister did not act in line with the Constitution. And so by and large, in case if it was for, as it's being said, for the foreign conspiracy, then the court could have clearly been convinced about it. The minutes of the National Parliamentary Committee on National Security were laid before the court today. I was there. I was outside the court, outside the courtroom. I was a witness to the proceedings as well. And the court was clearly not convinced on the narrative that was being built of the foreign conspiracy. So it might sound good that there is a foreign conspiracy to oust the Prime Minister. It would be a popular narrative, probably because Imran Khan needs a new narrative to go once he's going back for elections. But realistically speaking, there's a lot that he needs to prove at his hands before the court of law in order to peddle the narrative in public. Priyanka?
Anas, tell us, describe the scenes around you as of now. You have been reporting on the story. You were outside the Supreme Court. Now, Imran Khan earlier had tried to rile up the youth, asking them to take to the streets. Will we see more of those tactics?
We can probably see more of those tactics. I have been here outside the Supreme Court, rather inside the Supreme Court, since more than about 12 hours now. I arrived here at 9 in the morning Pakistan time. As we speak, it's roughly 9:50 p.m. Pakistan time. So it's more than, it's almost 13 hours now. And I've seen this place evolve. Right now, it's calm. The roads are pretty much open. But just after the verdict came, this patch of the D-Chalk of the Constitution Avenue in front of the Supreme Court, that was clogged with public chanting in favor of Nawaz Sharif, anti-Imran Khan slogans, and pro-People's Party slogans, pro-democracy slogans. We saw a couple of slogans being chanted, number of people out, jubilating, teary, overjoyed, emotional scenes, and rightly so, because as I said earlier, that they were expecting the doctrine of necessity to be invoked, but probably the judiciary has now outdone their history and they have buried the notion of doctrine of necessity, and that is the reason people were overjoyed with this verdict. Now the roads have been opened up, the security has been slightly lessened up as well. FC personnel and Islamabad police are still around, but now it's relative calm compared to how it was when the verdict came, where people were overjoyed with emotions, with happiness, for one very reason, for what they believe was restoration of democracy. Priyanka?
Right, Anas, thanks so much for summing that up for us. All eyes, of course, are now on Saturday when the no trust vote takes place. And of course, we'll be tracking all the updates and we'll come back to you for more. Thanks for joining us. WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.